This is how my agency manages vendors today. One portal, clear access, and better decisions. I'm going to show you how to make this for yourself. I'm Pallen. I run a branding agency, and I spend a lot of time coordinating with external vendors. Today, I'm partnering with Softr to show you how I built a vendor management portal for my business, something that replaces scattered docs, inbox chaos, and manual decision-making. This is not like a theoretical setup. This is something that we have structured and we actually use in 2026 to manage creative vendors, contractors, and partners. And of course, you can adapt this for your own business. Now, before I show you how it works, let's talk about what this replaces. Yes, here's what vendor management usually looks like in practice. Vendor details are scattered across spreadsheets and email threads. Pricing is remembered instead of documented. Notes live in people's heads. Decisions get made in Slack messages that are impossible to track later. And there's no single source of truth anyone can rely on. The issue really isn't the number of vendors that you work with, it's the fragmentation. In my case, the more photographers we collaborate with, the harder it gets to manage. What starts as a few trusted photographers quickly turns into a system that relies on memory, context switching, and constant follow-ups, especially when projects overlap and timelines move fast, which they do. Now, here's the vendor hub that I built to replace all of that. This is the vendor management portal that I'm running inside Softr. It gives me a single central list of every vendor that we want to work with all in one place. I love it. I can see contact details, categories, internal notes, approval status, ratings, all at a glance. Pricing also lives in here, which means I'm not digging through old emails or trying to remember what someone charged the last time we worked together. You all know that, trying to find that email. For example, if I'm looking for a photographer, I can immediately see who's approved, who's still being trialed, and who we decided not to work with again, along with the notes that explain why. This context is super important, especially when you're making decisions quickly or handing off work to someone else on your team. Now, this is an internal facing hub, so this is built for teams, not just admins. Anyone on my team can open this and understand who a vendor is, what they're good at, and whether they're the right fit for a specific project. Instead of asking around or relying on memory, everything starts here, and that alone removes a huge amount of friction from day-to-day vendor management. So now I'm going to show you how to build this from scratch in Softr. It might sound like a big task, but it's actually very manageable once you see the flow. I'm going to connect a Softr database in this case. In other videos, I've synced Softr with tools like Monday, but for this build, I'm using Softr. Once that's selected, Softr gives me a few starter blocks, but I want full control here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those and start clean. Now, I begin with the layout, but you can begin really in any way you want. I'm going to click this navigation bar, and I'm going to set this to be the top. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to drop in my branded logo. And I'll even set the accent colors to match my brand, so the portal already feels familiar before I add any functionality. I'm big on branding, so that is often where I start with this stuff. Looking good. Next, I'm going to create a tab container because there are going to be multiple tabs. This is what lets me separate the different parts of the portal without creating multiple pages. So I add tabs for vendors, for pricing, for tasks, and finally for the AI recommender. I like being able to also customize the icons here. It makes the interface clearer and easier to scan. I'm going to speed this part up. I don't want to get carried away with icon selection. Good, those tabs are looking great. Once the structure is in place, I add a table and connect it to my creative vendors database. So as soon as I do that, Softr pulls in the existing data automatically. From there, I customize what's visible. Again, this could be pulled in from another source. In my case, I've got this data directly in Softr. I click and drag to add fields, remove anything that I don't need, and I'm definitely going to include a notes field here so that my team can leave context. That's really important. For example, whether we've worked with a photographer before, how that experience went. Also love the ratings here. This is really handy. All of this is shaping up beautifully. What I like here is how forgiving the process is. I'm just noticing that I populated my vendor tab on the wrong tab. It's under the AI recommender, but it really should be under the vendor tab. So I'll move this out, and then I'll move it back in under the vendor tab, which is where it should be. And really, that's it. In a few steps, you go from an empty canvas to a working vendor hub, fully connected to live data and ready to build on. Now, if you don't want to build from scratch, you don't have to. Softr also has a whole bunch of templates available for you to start with, something that's already structured around the same ideas. So this template comes with vendor records, tasks, documents, and invoices pre-wired, again, so you're not starting from scratch. When you open the template, you get a full vendor-facing experience right out of the box, so vendors can log in, see their approval status, access tasks, upload documents, submit invoices. This is a little more robust than what I'm building, which is more for internal only. But this is great. Internally, your team gets dashboards, user management, and a clear overview of what's happening across all vendors. What I like about starting from the template is that it gives you a working system right away. And I'm telling you, the Softr templates are really impressive. From there, you can simplify this if you don't need all of this. You can remove sections you don't need, rename fields to match your business. Really, you can take this in whatever direction you want. Whether you're starting from scratch or you're starting from a template, the key idea here is the same. Your vendor data lives in one place and your workflows are connected to live records, and everyone is working from the same source of truth. This is cool. This is where vendor management becomes practical. I skimmed over this a second ago, but I want to show you this in more detail. Tasks. Instead of juggling emails and messages, I can see every active job and assignment in one place. So each task is tied to a specific vendor, has a clear status, and keeps all relevant context attached from the original brief to where the work stands right now. All of this is customizable, of course. So this means I don't have to follow up and ask for updates. I can open this view and immediately see what's not started, what's in progress, and what's already complete. And because tasks are connected to vendor records, I always know who's responsible for what. While we're talking about that, pricing stays visible while I'm scoping work, which is a small detail that makes a big difference with this stuff. If I'm assigning a new task, I can quickly sanity check costs before committing. Over time, this also builds a clear history, what we've worked on, who's delivered it, and how that relationship has evolved. Not everyone should see everything, and that matters. At the foundation of this portal is a shared database that holds all the vendor, job, and task information in one place. This database is that single source of truth that I mentioned, so everything that you see in the interface is powered by it. This one exists in Softr, but I could also import this from somewhere else by making that connection. Internal team members can see the full vendor record that includes pricing, internal notes, ratings, historical context across past projects. This would be the view your team uses to make decisions, assign work, compare vendors over time. And then vendors, on the other hand, only see what's relevant to them. So their own tasks, their documents, their invoices. They're never exposed to internal notes, private feedback, or vendors' data. Sensitive information stays private by default, so internal commentary, decision history never leaks outside your team. You define user groups here, connect them to the underlying database, and set simple data restrictions. From there, Softr enforces those rules across the entire app automatically. As the portal grows, more vendors, more jobs, more data, access stays consistent and predictable and secure. This is where things get really interesting with the new AI vibe coding block in Softr. This is super cool. This is so cool. This is the vendor recommendation assistant that I built using Softr's AI vibe coding. This one literally built from a chat, so I'll scroll through that chat and you can see that conversation we had to arrive at this. Now I'm going to start by showing it to you. So describe the project needs, things like budget, location. In this case, I'm asking for a photographer in New York within a specific budget range. When I run this, the AI doesn't just guess, it reads directly from my live vendor data. So categories, ratings, pricing, internal context, and it recommends the best match based on what's actually in the system. Just as important, it respects the same permissions that I set up earlier, so it only considers approved vendors, never exposes internal notes or restricted fields. The output is super useful and still secure. So I told you I use Softr's AI vibe coding block here because what I wanted to build didn't exist as a standard building block, and that's okay. For this, I needed a custom interface that could read live vendor data, apply logic, return a clear recommendation without building everything from scratch. So with vibe coding, I just described what I wanted. I prompted the AI to take the vendor data, evaluate it based on the criteria I provide, and return the best match. Behind the scenes, this is still fully connected to my database with permissions handled automatically. This replaces gut decisions, I've had lots of those, and memory-based shortcuts. So instead of asking around or second guessing, I get an instant recommendation grounded in real data. A vendor management portal like this brings order to a part of the business that is usually messy, to be honest. Your vendors are organized, your team has context, and decisions get easier as your data improves. And Softr makes this possible without custom development or complex setup. If you want to build your own vendor management portal, I have linked to Softr where you can try the template for yourself. And there are so many other things that you can do with Softr that are awesome. So check out some other videos that I've created for them. I'm Pallen. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.